All right. We've spoken a lot about writing code and all the different kinds and a lot of different features of code itself, but I want to talk, and we've spoken even a little bit about PyCharm and how we can integrate something, how PyCharm has things like GitHub and Git integration directly integrated into it, and how that can be really helpful for us sometimes. But now what I'd like to talk about in the last lesson for now is not error handling, but debugging. So we've spoken about errors and error handling, but I want to talk about debugging. How do we figure out where an error is coming from, or how do we figure out what the value of a variable is at a specific moment? And yes, we can actually do all that without having to figure out by hand what's going wrong. So I'm going to start this by opening, we'll create a new one. We'll create lesson 11. And we'll just create a, oops, sorry about that. We'll create a new file and just call it fun.py. And here I'll just go for I in range 200 print I. So really basic program. All that this does is, you know what? Let's do it on a few lines. Let's do for I in range I times 2, or I equal I times 2, and then print I. So what is this program going to do? It's just going to print out the numbers between 0 and 200, starting at 0 and stopping at 200, except it's going to multiply each one first. So what we're actually going to get is the numbers between, right, we get the even numbers between 0 and 400 without 400. That is what happens. Really simple, not that much to it. But what happens if I want to see exactly what's going on? I can add something called a breakpoint. A breakpoint says, hey, PyCharm. And now an important point to realize before I keep going any further is this is a feature of PyCharm. A lot of other editors will have it, and there's other ways to do this sort of debugging process without an editor, but for now we're just going to talk about PyCharm and how to debug specifically in PyCharm. So we had a breakpoint, which is this little red thing, and I just do it by clicking this part of the line. Right near the number, we had a breakpoint over here. And now instead of running my program, I click the little bug, which is debug my program. And I click that. And now you notice that the thing that runs is a little bit different. Here we have the I, which is created in this line, and it currently has a value of 0. And just for the fun, in my program, I can actually set the value, right? I can say instead of 0, I want it to be 4. And now I can do a couple of things. I can step over, which is skip this line, but go to the next one. I can step into, which is, hey, I want to see the function that runs. I can step into my code. So if I'm using someone else's code, then and if I'm using like a package or something like that, and I know that the problem isn't with the packages, it's with me, I can skip the package part, and I can step out. What does that actually mean? It means right now the code is paused here. If I go step into, it goes to the next line, and the value of I is still special variable, right? So there's a bunch of special variables, but the value of I is still 0 for now. And then we go to the next one, right? Because 2 times 0 is still going to be 0. So it runs to the next line. Now the value of I is 1. We go over here, and the value of I is now 2. And it's showing me what's stored in memory, I at the value of 2, and now it's going to print out I and go again. Now I can go and I can just push resume program, and that'll just break me back to the breakpoint again. And every time I click resume program, it goes back until it reaches another breakpoint. Now I can have multiple breakpoints in my program. I can have a much more complex program than just something as simple as, you know, a loop that prints out numbers. But at the end of the day, all I'm doing is I'm pausing my code at specific points, and I get to check the values of everything in that moment and see what's going on or why something has changed, figure out what's gone wrong or right. And if at any point I want, I can stop it, and I can just stop it the same way I can stop my programs from running if for whatever reason I need it to stop. I can remove breakpoints and I can add breakpoints, but if you do remove or add breakpoints, you're going to need, and you want those to work, you're going to have to restart the program. You're going to have to restart the debugging process, right? and you can view all your breakpoints in your code. So we can view breakpoints, we can mute breakpoints, which is just ignore them. I'm not going to go and remove them all now, but I want to ignore them for this little while. That is breakpoints in a nutshell, and as you can see, they're a very powerful tool because of the built-in effects that PyCharm allows us to have. So if I'm not really sure the value of something in a specific moment, I can create a print statement and run my function, but then print statements get really sloppy and it doesn't really show us exactly what's going on in memory. Whereas if I do a breakpoint, it'll stop right there. It'll show me all the values of all the variables involved in everything, and I'll be able to see any result. And at the same time, if I click on console, it'll actually show me, hey, here's the printout of the program that you're running. You'll notice here that the thing that ran is like a little bit more in depth because it's not just running my regular Python, it's running some backend stuff behind the scene that allows us to hook into the code and edit the code, not edit the code, but pause the code as we go. That is debugging in Python, and it is a really powerful in PyCharm, and it's a very powerful feature, and it's a feature that exists across most IDEs and across most languages. It is something that you should get in the habit of using over just writing print statements to figure out what's going wrong or right. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know.